Hi, my name's Sarah Ohm, and I will be reading The Charming Stranger, which is a piece of fiction that I wrote for creative writing class this semester, and I'm participating in the virtual open mic night. She felt wet lips slowly pulling away from her own. His strong hands held her tight while she ran her fingers through his dark brown hair. Gently, Allison Wright pulled away from her boyfriend Sam, said her goodbyes, and walked into her family's 100-year-old home. Passed down 4 generations, Allie received the home from her parents after they retired and moved to Florida. The long, dark hallway led her to the kitchen where she had papers piled high. She had worked at the local high school as an English teacher. With the term papers coming in, she had lots of work to do. Thank goodness Christmas break was a week away. Otherwise, Allison might lose her mind. The last week of school before break was usually spent turning in last-minute assignments for the end of the semester, playing games, throwing parties, and watching Christmas movies. It was tradition in Miss Wright's class to watch It's a Wonderful Life, starring James Stewart and Donna Reed, once the term papers were in. Since tomorrow was Monday and the term papers were in, it would seem like it was time for Allie to dig the movie out of the cellar. Allie set her purse down and her keys on the cluttered counter and made her way down to the cellar steps. The lights were dim, the stairs were creaky, and the 100-year-old basement was left unfinished. It was the perfect step up for a murder scene in a horror movie. A serial killer could be hiding around that pile of boxes at the end of the stairs, ready to strike Allie in the back of the head with a blunt object, anticipating dragging her up the cold cellar stairs and out the back door into his white, rusty van. The movie was located in the 4th box in the stack next to the heating unit. Buried beneath the boxes of Easter, Halloween, and Thanksgiving decorations stood the box of Christmas supplies that give off good tidings of the season to come. Allie removed the box, filled with Easter decorations, shuffled around a rolled-up rug on the floor, and a small table that she brought up from the cellar for her young nieces and nephews to use during dinner. She ended up placing the box next to a dusty old bookshelf against the wall. Allie picked up the second box, this one full of Halloween decorations, and carefully made her way across the floor to the bookshelf, as she did the time before. Her foot caught on the lip of the rug, and she began falling forward. The box of Halloween decorations flew out of her hand. In a few seconds before she hit the floor, she reached for something to break her fall. Her hands landed on a small chest, most likely belonging to her grandfather. Instead of breaking her fall, she managed to land on the dirty cellar floor with the Halloween decorations scattered around her and a small chest shattered beneath her. Allie stood up. Ouch! Her knees hurt from slamming on the concrete floor. Her neck hurt from the sudden fall, and her right hand ached because of the shattered pieces of wood from the chest stabbing into it. Carefully, she pulled the sharp pieces of wood from her hands and her forearm. Cold, wet blood dripped from her arm. Allie examined the areas where the wood had penetrated her skin, but none of those pieces had made a deep enough wound to cause so much blood loss. In fact, no chip of wood could have caused such a smooth laceration to the skin. She was so frazzled by the fall that she did not stop to think about what could have caused such a cut. Allie examined the floor around her, unconsciously picking up the Halloween decorations while looking for a cloth to clean up the blood on her arm. This is when she spotted it, a tiny silver knife tucked beneath the demolished chest. Allie pushed away the remaining broken pieces of wood surrounding the knife. It was odd that anyone in the family would keep a tiny knife in a wooden box in the basement. She took a closer look at the items on the floor and noticed a worn envelope underneath some more rubbish. Allie picked up the envelope and the knife and went up the cellar stairs. She cradled her arm. Oh, there was the blood again! Allie decided to take care of the wound before opening the letter. She grabbed the first Band-Aid she saw in the downstairs bathroom and hurried back into the kitchen, where she left the small knife in the envelope. Once she got the cut on her arm under control, Allie further examined the knife, which was rusted at the edges, with small clouds of tarnish along the blade. She used the knife to open the envelope, which was brown and crinkled with age. Folded was a piece of paper resting on the inside of the envelope. Inside the piece of paper, the following words were written: Windy City. Lipstick killer? Josephine Ross, Frances Brown, Suzanne Deegan, and Shirley Lynch. All 3 of the 4 names were crossed off. Shirley Lynch was the only name that was not marked. Who was the lipstick killer? Who were all these women listed on this piece of paper? Was her grandfather involved with multiple murders 7,000 miles away from the family home? It looked to Allie as if things were not as they seemed in the Wright family. She had to get answers, and fast. Allie picked up her phone and dialed her mother's number. She, if anyone, must have some idea what Grandpa Jack would have been doing in Chicago back in the 1940s. Grandpa Jack was full of stories, and Allie was sure her mother had heard of them. Hello? It was her mother on the other line. Hi, Mom. Did Grandpa Jack do business in Chicago back in the 1940s? Allie cut to the chase. No point in wasting time here. Her mother paused briefly. I'm not sure, honey, she responded. You have to keep in mind that was 20 years before I was born, and I'm not sure what your grandfather was up to that time. You have to know something. Allie was not letting it go that easily. What kind of work did he do as a young adult? I thought he lived in Baltimore his whole life. Now that you mention it, I do remember Grandpa Jack doing business in Chicago once a year when I was a little girl. I can't remember what for, but when he would leave, he would be gone for weeks at a time. Your grandmother was never too happy about that. What could Grandpa Jack have been doing in Chicago for weeks at a time? Could he have been an accomplice to murders dating back to the 1960s in Chicago? That would mean that at least 20 years of murderous acts for her grandfather. Allie formed her thoughts into words. Do you know what kind of work Grandpa Jack was doing in Chicago? I'm not exactly sure. I always thought he was helping to oversee the construction of some new buildings in the city, but your grandmother, in her later years of life, was convinced that he was there helping the homeless. Allie's grandmother and mother did not know what Grandpa Jack was doing in Chicago. What Allie needed to know more than anything else at this moment was the significance of the rusted knife and the note that was found in the chest. I am asking because I found a little box belonging to Grandpa Jack in the basement that held an old knife in it, Allie said. I was wondering if you knew anything about it. Honey, I don't know, her mother trailed off. Allie cut her off. I also found a list of names of 4 women on it. 3 of the 4 names have been crossed off. The top of the paper mentions the lipstick killer. I want to make sure Grandpa was not involved in any risky business in Chicago. Her mother fell to complete silence. The wind outside picked up, throwing the snow onto the side of the house. The snowstorm was growing worse. Her school would have a snow day for sure tomorrow. After 30 long seconds of peace, her mother finally spoke up. Allison, I do not know why you are snooping around your grandfather's belongings, but heed my advice and stop what you're doing immediately. What you might or might not find could be damaging to our family's reputation in Baltimore. Your grandfather was a good man, believe me. You don't need to know anything more. But Mom! Allie, enough is enough. I don't want to hear about this anymore. At that moment, her mother hung up the phone. Allie moved back to the kitchen table and pulled out a chair and sat down. Somehow her hands found her head. She took a moment to breathe and collect her thoughts. Something was not right here. Why her mother would shut her down so quickly was beyond Allie. However, she could not let it go. No matter how hard she tried, the small knife and the list of names and the conversation with her mother kept resurfacing in her thoughts. She was going to get answers whether her mother agreed with her or not. And that's all of the story I'm going to share with you now. There is a lot more, but I think that section would suffice. All right, thank you so much for listening to The Charming Stranger. Have a great day.